Today I'll be taking these two wreaths that I've been using for a while and turning them into a beautiful snowy wintry wreath. So please stick around and watch this video until the end, and please subscribe and like and share. I would really appreciate it. Here I'm just taking all of the ornaments and the accessories off of this wreath, and some of this stuff I will be using and some of it I will be discarding. Some of these ornaments that are on here are really sun faded and just not very good because I used this wreath outdoors. And this one was actually just a piece of garland that I had turned into a wreath, and so I'm just going to unwire it right here and pop it apart. Now what I'll be doing with this piece is I'm going to be cutting it into sections and adding it in as a filler into the other wreath, and it will also make it larger and fuller both. And I'm using tin snips, but mine are kind of old and they're really stiff. They're not very good. They're not as sharp as they used to be, but it did the job. But if you have wire cutters or something that will work easier for you, then go ahead and use that. You want to make sure you fluff your wreath. Fluffing is very, very important whenever you're making Christmas decorations like wreaths or putting your tree up. You really want to make sure everything is fluffed really well. And then here I'm just using twist ties, but you could use any type of wire, or you could even hot glue these branches in if you wanted to. I just found this was easiest for me to do right now. And I'm cutting the rest of my sections on this garland, and then I will be adding all of them around the entire wreath. And just like the first one, I will be wiring all of these in with my twist ties. And this is what we have now, a nice full and much larger wreath. Now I took it outside and turned it upside down, and I will be just putting a light coat of white primer paint on the back side. And then after that dries, I'm going to flip it over and put a coat on the front side. This time I went just a little heavier with the paint since this is the front. And I will be, throughout the video, putting multiple coats of paint on this. But what I like about this primer is that you can still see a little bit of the green coming through from the wreath itself, which gives it a nice wintry kind of forest feel in the wintertime. While this is drying, I'm going to be mixing up some flock, and this is a little bit different from the flock that I usually make. I usually make a wet flock. This one is going to be moist but crumbly and a little bit powdery, and so I'm just using baking soda, and then I'm going to be adding glue, but only enough to where it's moist and it's crumbly. I don't want this to be a wet flock. I will not be applying it with a brush. I will be applying it by sprinkling it on the wreath and spritzing it with a water bottle. I'm stirring it really well, and then I'm going to work it with my hands to try to work that glue into that baking soda really, really well. So the wreath is dry, and I'm going to go ahead and put another coat of the white primer on. After that dries, I'll be adding some flock. I started by using a sink strainer, but the flock was a little bit too thick for that, so I ended up just setting that aside and using my hands. I did spritz the wreath first with my water bottle before I started to apply the flock, and I'm also spritzing as I apply it. Once I have all of the flock on my wreath, then I go in and I spray down the wreath with my water bottle until the flock starts to kind of melt onto the branches. Once that is dry, this is what your flocking looks like. And then I go over it with one more coat of the white primer. Since I didn't add paint to this flock, I wanted to keep it just the baking soda and the glue. I didn't want it to yellow. I also had some fern greenery and some pine that I sprayed, just a light coat over. And once I add it into the wreath, it really gives it that woodsy, wintry, trees covered in snow type of feel, and that is exactly what I'm going for. So here I'm just hot gluing in my accessories, and like I said, I didn't buy anything. I already had these on hand. These are some accessories that I have been using on different garlands and things throughout the years. So you can use whatever you have on hand, or if you want to buy some new accessories for your wreath, you can do that as well. Just make sure that everything is really secure. A couple of these sprigs of the greenery, I actually just took a branch and wrapped it around and just wired them in like that with the wreath itself, and everything else I hot glued. What I didn't mention earlier is whenever you apply the flock, it is going to take several hours for your wreath to dry. You want to make sure your flock is completely dry, and then once it's dry, you might want to take it into the yard and just shake it just a little bit to get some of the excess flock off, and then add your accessories. I'm also adding in a pine cone that I put just a little coat of paint on just to give it a snowy feel. And then I have these white berries and some gold berries, and they just look so pretty in this. These are some gold leaves that I have been using for a long time. They were on the other wreath, and I'm just cutting them so I can use them individually around this wreath. And I'm just tucking them in to see where I want them, and then I'll be hot gluing these in as well. This just gives it a nice touch of gold throughout the entire wreath. I also have some silver eucalyptus that I'll be adding in. When you see me stick the scissors in there, that is just to hold it down so the glue can adhere, because I kept burning my fingers. And now I'm just about done adding what I want on the wreath. And now it's time to hang it up. I am so happy with the way this wreath turned out. It's beautiful and matches the rest of my Christmas decor. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you have a blessed day, and come back and watch some more. Thank you.